believe they saw that handgun under his waistband when they were just previously talking to him. Our school resource officer called for assistance. Our road patrol was responding along with the supervisors behind me. And within 5 minutes, this student, this 15-year-old student, was detained and in custody so they could keep our students at Martin County High School safe and then ascertain exactly what had taken place. The student that was detained, I'll give you his name. His name, I wrote it in my notes. What is it, Kev? Or LT?
M-A-N-N.
What's his first name?
Austin Mann.
Sorry about that. His name is Austin Mann. He's a 15-year-old student at Martin County High School. When our SRO deputies and other deputies responded to the scene, he no longer had that weapon in his waistband, but the weapon had been transferred over to a backpack. Our deputies immediately searched that backpack and were able to determine that the weapon was not indeed a real handgun, but was a replica of a real handgun. It was a BB gun, but it was a replica of a model 1911 handgun. Our deputies and detectives started doing an investigation because there was mention of that video that I started off mentioning, and were able to recover a video taken on the bus this morning while that child was inbound to school. In that video, our suspect, and we'll release that video to you, was seen pulling up his shirt. You can see the top of the handgun, and he's talking to what we believe to be his friends. So it seems like a confrontation that's going on, but we believe at this point that he was more posturing for the video that he was making. But in that video, he pulls the shirt up. You see the top of the handgun, and he says, quote, "Yo, bro," he said, "y'all kill me, bro." And then his friend, or whoever the other individual on the bus was, he said no, and that was the end of that video. When this 15-year-old was brought in, after he was secured, he was brought into the SRO's office. He was questioned, and he just said he was trying to be tough, was trying to posture, trying to be tough. At this point, it does not appear that there was any bullying that was going on or any kind of rift that we are aware of. But again, we're reaching out to you all. We're giving you this information. So if any other students have that information, we would ask them to come forward, talk to our school resource officers. A lot of that can be anonymous, and we can really do a deep dive on what we're dealing with here. Our suspect has been charged with possession of a firearm, possession of a weapon on a school facility, and possession of paraphernalia, because he did have some THC vaping devices in his backpack, and has been taken to our jail and then taken to DJS up in Fort Pierce. So he's being held up in Fort Pierce. With me today, behind me, is a representative from the school, Derek Lowe. The school has also started their process of their discipline process. So on top of the criminal charges, the school board has a really strict set of guidelines that they are implementing to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and we keep our students safe. I want to close with this before I kick it to questions. I want to close with saying kudos to those young men that had the courage to come to our SRO's office this morning and say something. I know it's not always cool in high school to give up information like that, but our job and our students' job is to keep them safe. And so we appreciate them coming forward, giving us the information so we can act on it. I also want to highlight yet again our relationship with the school board and our employees. Frank Brangel, he's sitting behind you, but he's the chief of security there. We work hand in hand to solve these cases and again, work together to keep our students safe. And then, of course, our deputies, our SRO deputy who had that individual in custody within 5 minutes, taking what could have been a threat off the table to keep our students safe. So with that, I'll kick it to you all for questions. I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Sheriff Dave Bowman, WPTV.
Yes.
Have you looked at, and Derek, feel free to weigh in on this, but has anybody looked into his background, his social media posts, and was anything found that would trigger something like, this is somebody we might need to keep an eye on before this morning's incident?
So the question is, has anyone looked into his social media, and was there anything that triggered us responding or or dealing with prior to this incident? And the answer is, I don't know the answer to your question. This happened around 10 o'clock this morning. We will know the answers. Our detectives will do a deep dive on his social media. Again, we will release a video to you that he had on his phone. And likely, if he didn't already, he was going to post that on social media. So we'll do a deep dive on him. And post his incarceration, he'll be added to a hot list that we have where we check on these individuals that are posturing or acting out, and we'll keep an eye on him to make sure we keep him in line even post his criminal sentence.
And one part of this was a replica Glock, if you will, a BB gun. How much damage could that have done if it was used?
The question is, this was a replica Glock or handgun. The BB gun in and of itself, it would not be overly catastrophic. However, you can kill someone with a BB gun. We've actually had that happen here in Martin County. So that's dangerous in and of itself. But then you got to factor in the response of us coming in there, because we believe we're dealing with a real weapon, or you have to factor in maybe a parent that sees this weapon. So there's other aspects that come into play in this where people trying to head off what they believe could be an active scenario could potentially hurt somebody and our suspect if they didn't know what they were dealing with.
Sheriff, can you explain a little bit about how you guys respond to something like this? I mean, at this point, did you know that it was a BB gun, or were you guys under the impression that it might have been a real gun?
The question was, how did we respond to an incident like this, and did we know what we were dealing with? And the answer is, Martin County Sheriff's Office, we have an all-hands-on-deck response, along with the school district. They do the same. So that event came into the SRO, so he went immediately. There's 2 SROs on campus today. They went immediately to the threat and got him into custody, and the rest of us didn't know exactly what was going on at that point. So Captain Ward, who's standing behind me, got on the radio and just had deputies and zones start headed that way. Our command staff started headed that way, detectives. So until we knew exactly what we had, everyone was headed there just to make sure the scene would be safe. And they did not know that it was not a real gun until they were physically holding that gun. So they believed when they responded that they were responding to a student holding a real Glock handgun.
Sheriff, what are the potential consequences for a student who is found with even a replica handgun and THC on campus? And also, what's your message to other students who may also want to, in your words, act tough and possibly, posture even fake handguns?
Posture or act tough. The consequences on the legal side, he's a juvenile, so he's gone to the Department of Juvenile Justice, where he can't be held more than 21 days, and then they will put him in a different program depending on what they ascertain to be appropriate for him. Does he have mental illness? Does he have home problems? So they'll try to figure out the root of his acting out today. And then the school, again, I don't know their exact process. Derek, you may be able to better answer that, but they have their own protocols in place to deal with this on a regular basis. And then I did compliment the 2 individuals that came forward and said something today, but what's concerning to us was this didn't start at 10 o'clock this morning. We know from looking at the video that he was flashing this gun on the bus this morning. Our job is to keep kids safe, but we rely on them to be the eyes and ears, our students to be the eyes and ears, and they need to step forward, be man and lady enough to step forward and say something and let us keep them safe. And then we're not in the times where you posture and act tough with guns anymore. We just aren't. We've seen active shooter incidents, multiple in the last couple of weeks, and school shootings have, unfortunately, since the Colorado shooting years ago, have been a recurring theme, and we are hyper aware of that, and so are parents and other students. So we will take it extremely serious. We will leverage all of our assets and the criminal justice system to make sure that you're not a threat to our students.
Are these types of replica guns, right? BB gun. We saw this kind of uptick with airsoft guns. Are these something that you guys are still seeing a lot here in the county with minors?
So the question is, do we see a lot of replica guns still in Martin County? And the answer is yes, we see them, unfortunately, and they're dangerous. I know they're fun for kids to play with, but again, we have law enforcement responding out there. God forbid we have to take, as law enforcement deputies, lethal action, or we take lethal action believing that we're taking out an individual with a real gun, and then we have to live with knowing that it was a BB gun. So it's not just us, though. We went, and you are the news, so a couple weeks ago, the state of Florida went to open carry. So they're encouraging people to carry guns and help eliminate these threats. So, now a regular legal carrying firearm owner, they interact with someone like that, and then they have to live with the consequences of a lethal action. So it's dangerous on both sides.
Sheriff, do we know if the parents knew about this child owning a BB gun, and if so, what did they have to say if you did speak with them?
So the question is, did the parents know about this child having the gun? And it's my understanding, again, we're on the onset of the investigation, that this individual does come from a troubled home, and it's not a normal mom-dad relationship with the child. So I know there's an uncle involved that has some former law enforcement experience. He's been communicating with our SRO deputies. So we're trying to glean more information, but at this point, it does not look like the child has a normal home life.
Sheriff, last question from me. In the climate that we live in, you referenced past school shootings, obviously, that we see all the time, sadly. How important, I know we've asked you this before, but how important is it to have the SROs in the schools here, and for the community, what should they know about their position in schools?
So the question is, how important is it to have SROs in the school? And I would say I would not be comfortable as a sheriff not having those SROs dealing with whatever issues come their way day in and day out. And I know the district feels the same way. We had heated conversations throughout the summer, but we ended up lockstep with one goal in mind, and that was to keep our students safe. And we're doing that day in and day out. This occasion or this incident today kind of highlighted how important SROs are. I know it wasn't a real gun, but we had to respond as if it was. But there's issues going on day in and day out in the schools that we mitigate all the time. Appreciate our relationship, not with just the school board and the membership there, but our students. Our students have a great relationship with their SROs, and I think that carries forward into their future and our future.
Sheriff, a question for you and the school board, or maybe towards Derek. Is the school board thinking about increasing possible security measures to make sure something like this doesn't happen again? And if so, do we know what that might potentially look like?
I'm not going to get into specifics of what we could be investigating to bring to our schools. I will tell you that we are always trying to improve the safety of our schools in whatever way possible. That's, one department at the school district's sole job is to investigate new pieces of technology and new policies to help keep our students safe as possible.
What do you think it says about the culture of the school that these two students felt comfortable and safe coming forward and alerting the SROs to what was happening?
I think it says a lot. And, as the sheriff echoed, I'll say the same thing. We commend those students for coming forward, and we encourage families to speak with their students and their kids at home about the consequences of bringing a weapon to school, whether it be real or fake, because these actions do carry serious consequences and potentially legal charges as well.
Derek, while you're up there, has any disciplinary action in terms of things like suspension, expulsion, been discussed? And if not, what is the kind of process that you go through to determine if and when he goes back to school?
Sure. So similar to the sheriff's office, the school district will run its investigation, interview the student, and try and find out as much as possible. I will say that there will be disciplinary charges that coincide with our Code of Student Conduct, but to get into specifics of what that could or could not be, I'm not going to speculate.
Derek, parents might feel a little uneasy when they hear this news and may feel that their child isn't safe. What do you want to tell parents to ensure that Martin County schools are in fact safe?
We rely on our students and our staff a lot, just as the sheriff said, to have these conversations with their students, with their kids, and the see something, say something rule is absolutely critical. We have sheriffs and deputies on each of our campuses, but a lot of the times it's only one or two bodies at most, where schools can have upwards of 3,000. So, we rely on them greatly. We do what we can, and we appreciate their trust.
One more question for you. When it comes to situations like this, does the school have a protocol, whether it's like limited movement for students in the school when they're alerted to a possible gun being on campus?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We do have two different measures in place. One is a lockdown, which you're probably familiar with, and another is a lockout. A lockout is when there is a threat that is near a school campus. It's not necessarily associated with the school, but it may be in the neighborhood of the school, and it can be completely unrelated to what's happening on our campuses. In that instance, nobody from the public or even outside is allowed into the building. However, inside the walls of the school, operations continue as normal. With a lockdown, that is when a threat is considered to be on campus. That's probably what you're more familiar with, when doors are locked, shades are down, students are, where they need to be as safe as possible, and sheriffs and law enforcement is responding as soon as possible.
Was that put to effect in this situation?
So because of the very quick and swift actions of our deputies and SROs, thankfully we did not have to go into a lockdown. I think, Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, it was only a few minutes from when the student went to the SRO office and to when those SROs responded to that student.
What did you do to notify parents that this happened, or have they been notified?
We have a mass notification system in place, so that was executed. Messaging was sent.
Have you gotten any feedback from them?
Not yet. Anything you want to add, Sheriff? No?
Yeah, let me, I would be remiss, and I forgot when I got up here, not to introduce these two gentlemen behind me, the ones that really do the work with their SROs. To my far right is Captain Ward. He's in charge of the Special Operations Unit, and then right behind me is Lieutenant Joe Kukufka, who's directly overseeing the SRO program. So they do the lion's share of the work, and I get to brag on them. But again, thank you all for being here, you helping us spread the message of how important, like Derek said, seeing something and saying something is to us. It really is vital to our mission and the safety of our kids. So thank you all for being here and helping us spread that message. Thank you.